Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mystery Sports Podcast. And today we've got it's a bit of an interesting one. It's not obviously there's not much live sport on, really. We know obviously England are playing tonight against Japan. A bit of controversy in what's happened so far in terms of the players leaving. Arsenal as well. We'll talk a little bit about them in terms of why all these players are leaving and what it means for them as a club. We've also got news in Tottenham Hotspur after Igor Tudor was sacked. They have a replacement for him, and he is a very good replacement, should we say, on a long-term deal. So we will talk a little bit more about him. And also news on Harry Maguire and Manchester United. As we know, as I said previously, and a lot of people have been reporting that Manchester United were very close in agreeing two deals with Maguire and Kobe Mainu. Harry Maguire's deal is now done pretty much. And yeah, we'll talk a bit about that. So should we get straight into it? And before we talk about De Zerbi, if you're new to the channel, please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and share to all your family and friends. Would be much appreciated. But let's get into the main stuff. Bear with me as well, guys. I have got a bit of a sore throat. So if I just grab a drink, I just need it because my throat is absolutely killing me. But we'll get on to it. Enough complaining. Let's talk about Roberto De Zerbi. Big name. We've not heard his name in a while, should we say. As you guys can see here, Tottenham are pushing to try and get the green light for Roberto De Zerbi for an immediate appointment. Fabrizio Romano published this on the Sunday, 29th of March. And now, what can we say? What we see in under an hour ago, Fabrizio Romano's officially made it. Well, he's done it, here we go. And it's official that Roberto De Zerbi signs as the new Tottenham manager until 2031. What does that mean? He's on a 5-year deal. Huge deal. Sorry. A lot of people may say that he's gone for the money. However, I don't think he's gone for the money. I think that Roberto De Zerbi has gone to Tottenham Hotspur because he sees a challenge there. He sees that if he can keep him up next year, not next year, sorry. If he can keep him up this year, he's got something to work with there. He has his transfer window to bring in players, obviously with the tag that they are a Premier League team. So I think Roberto De Zerbi, it's a good job for him after, doing very well at Brighton, going on to Marseille, doing okay at Marseille. I won't say he did amazingly well there. However, being at Marseille and now obviously leaving, I think December time when he left. It was early on in the season, I remember that. And now to obviously being the Tottenham Hotspur manager for 5 years. Worst case scenario for Roberto De Zerbi is that Tottenham do go relegated. So this is where I'm a bit like, what's going to happen here? Because I'm not too sure now in terms of who I think will actually go down. As we all know, I've said previously that I think Tottenham will go down. And if I'll show you the Premier League table in a second now, and I think we all know that it's a very, very tight battle. And I think a lot of people went if what's the names? Sorry, if Igor Tudor was still the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, I would that I would think that Tottenham would have gone down. However, Roberto De Zerbi is a very good manager, as we saw at Brighton. He got a lot of good results there. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking that Tottenham definitely could stay up. They have a good chance now with a proper manager in, someone who belongs in the Premier League. However, I still kind of think Spurs will go down. I don't think the players are good enough to keep them up. And that is ridiculous for me to say that, the likes of Van de Ven, Romero, Pape Sarr, Kudus, Richarlison aren't good enough for the Premier League. I think they are on the day, they can be, but I just think with the next 7 games remaining, I don't see Spurs doing very well. The next game, as you guys can see on the right-hand side, is Sunderland away from home. So that's a very tough game. But I also think, 1 point is the difference between themselves and West Ham. West Ham, Wolves, I think they could easily win against Wolves. West Ham look good. Somerville's back, we think, as some of the reports have suggested. Sorry. So if West Ham gets Somerville back and Bowen kicks on, obviously with the World Cup only a few few months away, should we say. I think West Ham could definitely stay up. And I think it's very, very close. And you can even drag Leeds into it slightly with them being on 33 points. However, I don't think Leeds will go down, as I've said many a time. I think Forest, if they get a couple wins, they do look good. They do look like a good side. If Forest can get a couple of wins, they'll stay up. But Tottenham, I just don't see them where they can get many wins. However, this is all if buts and maybes at this moment in time, and anything can happen in terms of this Premier League relegation race. West Ham could slip up massively and fall straight into it. Tottenham could keep slipping up as they have been doing. And I think if I'm going to make my prediction now, I think the bottom three will be, I think Burnley will finish rock bottom. I think Wolves are on some good form, so they'll finish 19th. And I think Spurs will get relegated. I can see West Ham just turning up. They've looked good. They've had two losses in five, two draws and one win there. I think they'll beat Wolves, and I think they will just about scrape it and stay up in the Premier League title. Not Premier League title, Premier League season. And I think with Deserve, if they were to get relegated, I think he probably would walk. I think it's quite an embarrassment if he was to get relegated. But no, anything can happen in football, as I keep saying. Anything can happen. And we've got to just, it's all speculation, isn't it, really? And if this was to happen, with Spurs to go down, it would be quite a story for that to actually happen. I don't think I think it'll be very tough. That's the way I'm gonna put it. I think, what we can see is that, or what we may see is that it's come major, major kind of things that will happen. Hopefully, I want to see Spurs go down. I don't really like Spurs as a club. However, anything can happen. We don't know. Moving on then to Harry Maguire. And I don't know why I went really loud then. My bad. Harry Maguire, obviously, here we go. Set to sign a new deal till 2027. So a year deal there with, I'm pretty sure there's, as he says there, that if the club decides, they can extend his contract for a year. I think it's a very good move from United. We needed to keep him. I think given his experience that he's had at United, his aerial presence, as we all know, that goal against Lyon, one of the most memorable moments of my United lifetime I've been alive for. And I think that we will see a good performance from Maguire. I think having that captaincy stripped of him has been the best thing for him. He's got back to his old self. He's looked very, very good in recent games. And, with the late injury, with the Martinez injury, I think Maguire stepped up massively, and that is what we needed. And, as I think Maguire is the greatest centre half of all time because he's an absolute legend. Now, I'm only kidding. I think, Maguire, I've gave him his criticism before. I think he was rightly deserved in some of his criticism that I gave him. However, I think, you always got to give second chances to players. And I think Maguire has definitely took that second chance, and he's raised his level massively, and arguably is our best finisher in terms of, when we need a goal, clutch player. And also his just defensive awareness and things now as a player is second to none. And I think in terms of the World Cup, if we're going to talk about that, I think Maguire has to go to this World Cup. I think he will go to the World Cup. I think he's crucial for England and United. So it should be very good to see Maguire, at United again for another 2 years, possibly. I think it'll be a good. Hopefully, we can get De Ligt back as well, because I think Maguire would be good for those Champions League games. Let's say De Ligt can't play, maybe it's like pulled up with a knock, and then you stick Maguire in, or even in some Premier League games where it's like, no disrespect to those lower league sides, but you're playing like let's say Brighton, for example, you might play Maguire in that game just because you want to rest De Ligt or keep him fit for the Champions League, because the Champions League money is a lot of money, because I think it's it. Sorry, I think if you get into the quarterfinals or something, it's like 70 million prize money. So it's mega the money there. I think United we'll get Champions League football this year, and if we do, we've got to prioritise that and hopefully get do well in competition. And then finally, if we just round it up here, we'll just talk a little bit about the England game and what we think. Maybe not England game. Should we talk about England game? England aren't playing today, are they? Yeah, they are. I don't know. Yeah, they are. 7:45 kickoff. My head is absolutely scrambled, but we'll get this back on. So there you go. As you guys can see there, England played Japan. As it being a friendly, and not many people will keep an eye on it. I didn't really watch the Uruguay game. I thought it was funny how Manuel Ugarte didn't get subbed off, didn't get sent off, should I say, after receiving 2 yellow cards, which was hilarious. But I think what's quite controversial in the whole entire international break, and we've got to talk a bit about Arsenal in this as well, that how many players have dropped out. There's an absolute abundance amount of players who have left the squad. Quick score prediction on this: I think England will win 2-0. Easy game for England, hopefully. But going back to the players who are leaving, you've got Saliba who's left. Gabriel's obviously, well, Saliba and Gabriel didn't go, but Ben White's pulled out. Not Maguire. Declan Rice has pulled out. Trossard's pulled out. Who else has that? I think Madueke's pulled out. There's so many players who've pulled out for Arsenal, and this is quite concerning. I mean, well, it's not concerning for the international teams, but for City, really, it's concerning for them, because if these players aren't playing this international break and they're at home resting and stuff, and the City players are, i.e., Bernardo Silva, Doku, Haaland, Aiton Ori, what could be out there, and there's Semenyo and things like that. If they're out there playing football in this international break, does it play into Arsenal's advantage? I think it possibly could. Having rest, not that chance of getting a severe injury during a game. I think Arsenal are kind of playing a blinder here, and this is what United were doing under Sir Alex. Ryan Giggs would have had about 500 appearances for Wales if Sir Alex didn't pull him out. But I think you've got to do what you've got to do to win, and I think Mikel Arteta is doing that, and fair play to him. I've seen a lot of people on TalkSport and Sky saying they disagree with all these players going out. However, when you're in a Premier League and when you're in a treble kind of race, possibly, you're going to want every single player fit and available to play all your games. And your best players, i.e., Saka, Madueke, your 2 centre halves, they're crucial for Arsenal. You want them to be fit. You want them to be playing every single game that's left of the season. There's 7 left in the Premier League. You want to make sure you grab that Premier League title with 2 hands now and don't let it bottle. I think they still could bottle it. However, they've got a very good chance of winning this Premier League title. They've got a FA Cup. That's just cup competition. Arsenal are good in cup competitions, as we saw in the Carabao Cup, apart from the final. The Champions League. The Champions League's another kettle of fish, but having a favourable draw in Sporting could be very good for them. Also, Barcelona probably in the semi-final. They play. Arsenal have got a treble on the line, and there's no denying that. And I think Mikel Arteta, fair play to him. You pulled your players out to give you the best chance of winning and to save your job, really. Because if he doesn't win anything at the end of the year, then Mikel Arteta will probably get sacked. And that's the harsh reality of football, isn't it? If you don't win anything, you get sacked. And Arteta, this is his 4th season, I think it is 5th season or whatever, of trying to win a trophy. So he's got to do it. He only won an FA Cup, and that was in a COVID year, which was weird. So when you want a real cup and a proper cup, then you got to go win it. You got to go win it this year, because this is your best opportunity. Your squad's very good. But yeah, no, I agree with what Arteta has done. If I was the manager, I'd want my best players there and fit and available to play every single game. But thank you all for watching. I'm going to go rest my voice because it's absolutely killing. Please like and subscribe to the channel and share to all your family and friends. I'll catch you all in a bit. See you all in a bit.